kindness and clarity, openness and discernment, as well as nurturing and firm boundaries. One has tapped into a realm that transcends mere logic and the confines of the ego. You have engaged with the essence of existence. This form of integration becomes exceedingly difficult to manage, as it transcends the realm of unconscious injuries. Your response emanates from a state of completeness. Your unpredictability is what defines you. That is what grants you liberation. That is precisely what renders you formidable. To those who remain confined to binary reasoning, it is time to recognize that you have transcended the limitations of conventional thought. Moreover, individuals not only harbor resentment towards that, but they also experience a sense of apprehension. Allow me to present the reality. Carl Jung posited that the ultimate privilege in life is to fully realize one's authentic self. However, such privilege is accompanied by significant cost. Individuals will inevitably depart from your life. One may find themselves misinterpreted. One will face judgment, disdain, and abandonment, not due to any fault, but rather as a consequence of authenticity. Individuals who continue to inhabit a falsehood find it intolerable to be in the company of someone who embraces authenticity. Therefore, you are not excessive. You are not irrational. You are not exhibiting selfishness. You are in the process of recovery. You are engaging in the process of integration. You are recalling your former self prior to the world's insistence on erasure. Each assault, every dismissal, and every act of treachery serves as evidence that your brilliance cannot be obscured, that your growth is manifesting, and that your spirit has opted for authenticity rather than ease. Jung articulated, your endeavor is not to pursue love, but rather to identify and uncover all the obstacles within yourself that you have constructed in opposition to it. You have dismantled those obstacles. You have confronted the darkness. You have welcomed the disorder. You have opted for completeness. And that, as articulated by the foremost psychologist in history, is precisely the reason they can no longer tolerate your presence. The inquiry does not revolve around the reasons for their animosity towards you. The fundamental inquiry is whether you possess the fortitude to continue your growth, even in the face of a world that implores you to diminish. Your psychological evolution is contingent upon this matter. If this resonates with your inner being, consider subscribing to Deep Psyche. United, we traverse a journey defined not by validation, but by authenticity. What if I were to suggest that the instant you embarked on your journey of healing, you simultaneously transformed into a formidable force, not due to any action you took, incorrect, yet due to your decision to cease performing a role that maintained the comfort of others. This elucidates the underlying psychological factors that may have led those in your immediate circle to oppose you. Carl Jung articulated profound insights, and once you grasp his discoveries, your perception of betrayal will be irrevocably transformed. Jung posited that the aspects of others that provoke our irritation can serve as a pathway to deeper self-understanding. However, the majority of individuals are not prepared to confront such a profound reality. In every relationship, there exists a tacit understanding. You remain diminutive. Your growth appears to be somewhat limited. You do not alter the narrative we have crafted regarding your existence. However, the instant you embark on the journey of healing, the narrative disintegrates. You transform into a reflective surface, and in an instant, they find themselves confronting the facets of their being that they have meticulously evaded for years. That is the shadow, the aspects of our being that we refuse to acknowledge, suppress, or cast away. Carl Jung referred to it as the shadow self, positing that many individuals prefer to externalize it rather than engage with it internally. What occurs when one ceases to diminish? You transform into a catalyst for reactions. It has been remarked that you have undergone a transformation. It has been remarked that you possess a distinct quality. However, What is truly implied is that you have ceased to embody the person I required you to be in order to evade my own self. That is a form of projection. When you cease the act of pleasing others, when you begin to establish boundaries, when you decline to engage in your own diminishment, you compel those in your vicinity to confront reality. Your development underscores their inertia. Your recovery jeopardizes their facade of dominance. And your transformation signifies the end of the narrative they previously constructed around you. However, Jung did not cease his endeavors at that point. He revealed a profound insight, a process of such profound potency that it instills fear in the majority. He referred to it as individuation, the profound expedition of realizing your authentic self, distinct from the expectations imposed by society. It resonates with a certain beauty, wouldn't you agree? However, there is a caveat. Individuation transcends the personal realm. It embodies a revolutionary essence. When one embraces their true self, it inevitably reveals the facades maintained by those who continue to masquerade. It is at that moment that they pivot. Your parents, your friends, your siblings, they do not consistently harbor animosity towards your authentic self. They disdain the very existence of your authentic self. What is the rationale behind this inquiry? As it dismantles the illusion, the notion that you would perpetually assume the role of caretaker, the reserved individual, the agreeable one, the person who never challenged the verities that construct your existence. In order to grasp Jung's caution, it is essential to revisit one of his fundamental notions, the idea of the persona. The persona represents the facade we adopt, the iteration of our identity with such authenticity that there remains no substance for manipulation to cling to. That is the reason I require your presence on an hourly basis. I beseech the Lord that your word may not merely dwell in proximity to me, but rather be vivified within my very being. Allow it to establish itself in the most profound recesses of my heart. Allow it to influence my thoughts, my expressions, and my reactions. As the allure of temptation emerges, be it the inclination to deceive, to flee, to yield, to respond with ire, to succumb to trepidation, or to pursue illusory solace. Allow your veracity to serve as my shield. Jesus, I recall the manner in which you triumphed over the adversary in the wilderness. You did not engage in physical combat. You engaged in a discourse with Scripture. You have not demonstrated your worth to the adversary. You merely asserted, "It is inscribed," and that sufficed. Therefore, I beseech permitted to flourish. Your indignation, you rapidly discern the behaviors and traits that elicit affection and those that lead to disapproval. Thus, we shape our own identities. We suppress the elements that are incongruent. Perhaps we are instructed that anger is undesirable in my mind, igniting a fervor within my spirit. Provide me with insight. Bestow upon me a profound yearning for sustenance. Allow me to seek your truth with greater fervor than my desire for comfort or pleasure. May each line of your discourse serve as a beacon for my journey and illuminate my way forward. Assist me in internalizing it, reflecting upon it, embracing it, and firmly grounding myself in it, particularly when the surrounding environment is in turmoil. And, dear Lord, should the adversary attempt to entice me with riches or acclaim, please remind me that you are my true wealth. If he presents me with an avenue to evade suffering, separate from your company, please remind me that only you fulfill my desires. You embody the essence of sustenance. You embody the essence of vitality. No entity in existence possesses the capacity to satiate the emptiness within me as you do. It was an involuntary recurrence. Your inherent strength radiates towards those who would exploit it. The essence of the narcissist reveals a lack of true power. They are deeply estranged from their true essence. What may appear as confidence frequently reveals itself to be grandiosity. What seems to be control is fundamentally anchored in a sense of shame, a lack of insight, an unwillingness to engage in self-reflection, a perilous naivety. and that purity transforms into something toxic, not out of desire, but due to a lack of alternative options. The energy expended in the suppression of our shadow manifests in unintended ways, via resentment, persistent discontent, dominance, or a sense of moral superiority. What measures can one take to ensure personal safety? By attuning oneself to the disquiet. Not every person who exhibits good manners can be deemed trustworthy. Not every smile reflects authenticity. At times, those who inflict the greatest harm present themselves with an air of civility, as they remain unacquainted with their own reality. Jung's work compels us to ponder what insights elude my perception of them, however, of greater significance. Rest assured, you are not irrational. You are not exhibiting signs of paranoia. You have regained consciousness. Ultimately, the denial of the shadow transcended mere psychological issues. It represented a profound lack of insight, an unwillingness to engage in self-reflection, a perilous naivety. And that purity transformed. You are not excessive. You are not irrational. You are not exhibiting selfishness. You are in the process of recovery. You are engaging in the process of integration. You are recalling your former self, prior to the world's insistence on erasure. Each assault, every dismissal, and every act of treachery serves as evidence that your brilliance cannot be obscured, that your growth is manifesting, and that your spirit has opted for authenticity rather than ease. Jung articulated, your endeavor is not to pursue love, but rather to identify and uncover all the obstacles within yourself that you have constructed in opposition to it. You have dismantled those obstacles. You have confronted the darkness. You have welcomed the disorder. You have opted for completeness. And that, as articulated by the foremost psychologist in history, is precisely the reason and compassion, all in a state of equilibrium. Upon attaining this state, one not only safeguards oneself, but also catalyzes a transformation in the surrounding environment. Individuals who have sights from its presence. For when one engages in such actions, one does not descend into a state of darkness. You attain completeness. In that state of completeness, one develops a resilience against those who have yet to discover their true selves. If this contemplation resonates within you, contemplate subscribing to Deep Psyche, where we explore the depths beyond the superficial and engage with the essence of the soul. Understanding oneself is not merely a privilege, it serves as a safeguard, yet resonate with their intuitive awareness. Have you ever encountered an individual who appeared exceptionally kind, composed, generous, and almost unnaturally perfect? They regarded the right with a smile. They communicated with a deliberate elegance, maintaining a calm demeanor, never elevating their voice or succumbing to frustration. Yet, there was an unsettling quality about this, or castaway. Carl Jung referred to it as the shadow self, positing that bears the weight of weariness. It is precisely at this juncture that adversaries frequently opt to launch their assaults. He does not postpone his actions until you have reached your optimal state. He bides his time until you find yourself in a state of hunger, solitude, stress, discouragement, or fatigue. It is during that period that you are most inclined to heed his fabrications. However, there is a positive aspect to consider. You possess a force that transcends mere willpower. What you possess transcends mere positive thinking in terms of security. You possess the divine proclamation. The divine scripture possesses a precision surpassing that of any blade and an enduring strength that transcends all forms of temptation. It represents the divine expression rendered comprehensible. Your intellect serves as your most formidable tool. This serves as your safeguard. This is your salvation. The scripture states in Psalm 119, verse 11, I have stored your word in my heart that I may not transgress wholly in moments of prosperity and strength. It arrives in moments of fragility, when one's attention is diverted in times of distress and amidst a longing for solace. What words did the devil utter? If you indeed hold divine lineage, issue a command for this stone to transform into bread.